I'll just sort of do a quick video today. I wasn't intending on recording this one. I thought it was just a standard HDMI port, but then I've taken it apart. Well, not taken it apart because it came to me in bits. It came to me in a nice, what's that, Gabby's Clubhouse? Gabby's Clubhouse? I don't know. Came to me in a nice bag, all taken apart in bits. No, customer won't get a discount for that. It's actually more awkward because I have to reassemble it and, you know, test it before I can even attempt to work on it. But I've done all of that, and obviously it does turn on. I say obviously, it's not obvious, but it does turn on. But the reason I'm doing a video on this is because it's a DIY repair. I'm not trying to slate the customer or anything like that on this. I'm just intrigued as to what went wrong here and how this actually happened. So I thought I'd do a video on it. So from what I know, or from what I've been told, the HDMI port has been changed on this, and yeah, the fan connector has been ripped off as a result of that. So there's no fan connector on this, and I think I'm probably going to need to change the HDMI port again because, well, it doesn't look too good. So yeah. Anyway, my name's Hakko. I'm an electronics technician. I do mainly work on games consoles, but I do work on other stuff as well. So if you enjoy that kind of thing and you want to see more, then don't forget to get subscribed and turn on the bell notifications. That way you won't miss any future videos. You'll be notified whenever I release a video or whenever I go live. If you do need to organise a repair, if you don't feel like any of the repairs that you see on my channel are something that you can do yourself, I do offer repair services. You can check that out at thecodat.repair. I am in the middle of working on rebuilding the website and creating a full booking system and stuff like that. So yeah, at the minute there's just a contact form there, so get in touch. I'm getting much better at getting back to customers. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you get in touch if you do need a repair and stuff, and yeah, I'll do my best to help. And yeah, if you need parts and supplies for these as well, if you need connectors, HDMI ports, RAM, Wi-Fi chips, power supplies, consolefix.shop, my online store. But with that being said, this video is sponsored by none other than my good friends at PCBWay. Yay, PCBWay! Today's video is sponsored by PCBWay. Whether you've got a simple project that requires a quick mod board or you want to launch your own products to the world, PCBWay can help. With fantastic pricing on multi-layer PCBs, flex ribbons, 3D printing and even laser cutting solutions, you're sure to find everything you'll need all in one place. Custom PCBs start from just $5 for a 1 to 2 layer board with a fast 24-hour build time and free shipping on orders over $30. PCBWay also offer aluminium PCBs starting at just $120 per square meter. Check out what PCBWay have to offer by clicking on the top link in the video description or in the top pinned comment and get your project started today. Thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring the channel. Now let's get back to the video. Anyway, let's get to this, shall we? Now that the shilling is out of the way. So yeah, this has had a little bit of rework, and like I said, it does turn on and stuff. It's a digital edition PlayStation 5. It is pretty dirty inside. It does need a clean and stuff like that. And yes, there's stuff all over my desk. I spent all of yesterday cleaning, and when I say cleaning, I mean picking up everything off my desk and throwing it all into a box, and I just didn't get a chance to finish. So yeah, never mind. That is just one of those things. It is what it is. But yeah, there's a few things on my desk. The rest of my desk is clean. It's just here. So yeah, I'm working on a Nintendo Switch. That's got to have a mod chip done, and I'm working on a few other things as well. So yeah, anyway, let's get this under the microscope and we'll see what's going on with it, shall we? Okie dokie. So that is just not great at all. So it looks like we're going to have to do a bit of work there. I don't think those pins are going to be connected. So this is the HDMI port. Yeah, so half these pins are not going to be connected. The solder job is just not great at all. And like I said, yeah, okay. Yeah, so like I said, I'm not doing this video to slate the customer or anything like that. At the end of the day, you've got your professional technicians, you know, the people who do this every day, and then you've got your have a go hero dads who just like to dabble and tinker, and there's no harm in that at all. And at the end of the day, the way I see it is the only way to learn is to make mistakes. And on the plus side here is that this console doesn't belong to one of my customers, right? It belongs to his little son, and this is just a dad trying to fix it. So, you know, I truly respect that. I really do. And at the end of the day, the only time I've got a problem with it is when people are charging money for it, pretending they can do the work, and then just not being able to do it because they're stuck at the job. That's the only time I've got a problem with it. When you've got your, you know, average dad at home with a soldering iron and a hot air station, you know, the kind of people that just like to have a little bit of a tinker and stuff like that, I have absolutely no problem with that. But with that being said, this is a mess and it does need to be fixed up. So I'm going to start off, of course, by removing this HDMI port and undoing all of the lovely work that's been done to it. So I've got my hot air set at 440 degrees Celsius. That's at 40% airflow. And I'm just going to add some flux, because flux is your friend. One of the reasons this hasn't gone to plan is because of flux, or lack thereof. Flux has been used, but just not much. So I'm going to completely get rid of this port. I'm not going to be reusing this at all, which is why I'm melting it up, well, flowing it from the top. I don't care if it melts. The ports are really not expensive enough to really care about that. Okay, so that is loose. I'm going to remove that from there and just get rid of that port completely. In the bin you go. Next step, clean up. Get all of this old flux cleaned. And to be fair, to be completely fair to this customer, it wasn't the worst job I've seen. Like this, it really isn't that bad when you think about it. Like, if you've watched my channel for, you know, any length of time, you'll know that, yes, I mean, this wasn't great and stuff, and, you know, it wasn't the best job, but I've seen a lot worse from so-called professionals. And that's the point here, is that this guy, he's on the right track. He just needs a bit more practice. And look at that, just a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and look at how much that's cleaned up. Like, that looks pretty pristine again, doesn't it? There you go. Awesome. Good job. Alright, so I'm going to add some leaded solder to this. So this solder doesn't have to flow all the way through straight away, because when I use hot air on this in a minute, it will suck it through. I just want to add some leaded solder to it so as I can make sure that when I do drop a port on here, it's going to have a nice solid connection. I'll just add some solder. There we are. Just make sure that all of these solder joints are nice and fluffy. And that's ready for a new port. It really isn't that bad. So with my board over the edge of the table then, and yes, we've got some reflection here. And by the way, I do plan on getting an anti-glare light. I have got one on order. So yeah, I've got an anti-glare light on the way, so hopefully that glare and stuff will be gone soon. But I'm going to grab a replacement HDMI port, which I bought from consolefix.shop, of course. And what I'm going to do, at 440 degrees Celsius, I'm going to heat up the board from underneath, like this. And then once the solder is all flowed, once the solder's all flowed and it's all molten, I'm going to drop the new port on. And the reason I do it this way is because then I shouldn't need to add any flux or anything to it apart from what's already there, which means we shouldn't get any flux travel through to the port itself, and we shouldn't have any connection issues or anything like that, hopefully. So my hot air, like I said, 440 degrees Celsius, 40% airflow. You might think that's a bit hot, but it's not. These boards can take it. As you'll see here, this solder's flowing now on the ground legs. There we go, it drops nicely. Just like that. Drop a new port in. Press down, make sure it's sitting flat. And then just hold it and wait for the solder to solidify. Should be good to go there. I'm going to clean up the flux that's on here, again using IPA. I use 99.9% IPA, by the way, in case you're wondering. I do get asked that quite a bit. I did get a comment once on the channel saying that I'm killing the board with IPA. I can't help but laugh at that. That was a pretty funny comment. Apparently I'm using too much IPA and it's going to kill the board. No, it's not. You're not going to kill a board with IPA. Let's just test these pins. If we've got any loose, we're going to have to come back in. So I'll just give them all a nudge test. I'm not pressing too hard on it. Whoops. Yeah, those pins are all solid. Nice. So it does look to me like, I mean, if we zoom in here, I'm just getting as close as I possibly can, but it does look to me like there's not quite enough solder on these to have a lasting repair. So regardless of whether I get flux inside the port, I am going to come in with the soldering iron and just tilt all of these pins up, because I'm not happy with that at all. I like to make sure that I do a proper job on this and make sure it's going to be a lasting repair, because I don't want these coming back to me under warranty, and I don't want it to fail again after the warranty period. Well, actually, to be fair, I mean, most of the time it's user damage which is going to cause this to fail, but I don't want it to fail again after the warranty period either, just because I haven't done a good enough job with the HDMI port and there's not enough solder on the pins. So I'm going to spend that extra couple of minutes and do a proper job, and I'm going to make sure that it's not going to come back under warranty and it's not going to have any issues. So just let it solder. And the easiest way to do this, well, first of all, we need to make sure we don't damage this capacitor. We need to make sure we don't knock that off. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but I'm just going to come in with the iron and just tap each pin individually. We're probably going to end up with bridged pins. Yep, so as soon as we've got more than one bridge pin, then there's more than enough solder on here to actually complete the job. So what I can do, I'll just add some flux. I've got the shakes this morning, as you can probably tell. I don't normally shake this much, but I've just cleaned my iron off, got rid of any excess solder off the iron. And now I'm just going to come in, and instead of using the tap method, because we've got a couple of bridges, I'm just going to come in and just use the drag method. Like this. And all of this excess solder that's on these pins, you're going to drag across the board, or drag across the port and transfer to the rest of the pins. Be careful here. There we are. Yes, I could have put a smaller iron tip on, but well, I'm lazy, so I didn't. Let's just clean this up a bit, and then I'm going to inspect the pins, see if there's any bridges. If there is, I'll take care of it. And the way I'm going to see if there's any bridges is I'm going to use my multimeter probes, and I'm going to check with the multimeter. So I'll use continuity mode on the meter just to tell me if there's actually any shorts on the pins at all. So meter in continuity mode, that's the mode that beeps when we've got a completed circuit. So that's going to tell me if we've got a path from one pin to the other. We should not get any beeps on any of these pins here when testing one next to it, the one against the one next to it. None of these pins should be short. Might end up with some in the middle here. That was a false positive because I touched the probes together by accident. But no shorts at all. That is absolutely perfect. Cool. Good stuff. Alright, so next, what I want to do, while I'm still in this area, I'm just going to get this in focus here, like that. While I'm still in this area, I'm just going to clean up everything. So I want to make sure that there's no flux inside the port, because that will cause a connection issue as soon as it hardens. It'll stop the HDMI from turning on, or stop it from making a connection. So what I tend to do is just warm it up using hot air, and you're going to start to see the flux flow. And then you'll see that there is flux inside the port. So what I do is just warm it up like that, and then just take my brush and just clean inside the port. So as best as I can, just a bit of IPA and just clean up inside the port itself. Just try and get rid of that flux that's made its way inside, because you will get flux inside. Just warm this up again. Just spend the extra minute or two. Take your time. I'm actually going to use a longer brush here, just so I can get deep inside that port. So these brushes, I've actually trimmed some of them down just to, you know, for different applications. So the one I was using was fairly short, but this one does reach all the way, as you'll see there, which means that I can get a nice full clean on the port. So this is my HDMI only brush. This one is. This is just what I use to clean out HDMI ports. There we are. Good as new look. Beautiful. Just flip it around. Just clean off this side. And as you can see on this side, we do have a little bit of damage there, and I'm not really happy with the colour of those solder joints. So they're a little bit grey, they're a little bit dull. I like them to be shiny if I can get them shiny. So I'm just going to add some flux, and I'm going to use a combination of hot air and the iron. There we are. Beautiful. You couldn't really see that very well. I was out of position. But we are good there. That is looking gorgeous. And we've got some nice shiny fluffy solder joints as well, which is what I wanted. Clean that port again. There we are. And that's nice and clean. Better than factory ish. And next we need to tackle this. This is the fan connector, and we do have some pretty significant damage here to this. So it looks like someone's tried to glue this on, which is never great. I don't recommend that. I am going to show you a method what I like to use. So I'm going to just use a combination of heat and my tweezers just to clean this up a little bit. Try and break away some of this glue. That's not working. There's another method that I can use. So first of all, a bit of isopropyl alcohol, just clean up the area, and then we can kind of gauge what we're dealing with here. So it looks like we're dealing with some glue, and obviously we've got some damage traces we need to take care of here as well. So here's what we can do. If we take some solder braid, add some flux to the area. If we take some solder braid and use the soldering iron, this solder braid is going to act as a bit of an abrasive. So I'm not worried about using fresh braid. I just want to use the solder braid to act as an abrasive to break away all of this gunk if I can. So the combination of the braid and heat, it should clean up the board to a point where I can see what I'm dealing with. So can you see all this breaking away here? I'm not bothered about, you know, scratching the board up or anything like that. This board is far from pretty. I just want to clean up the area as best I can. So I'm scraping pretty hard here. Okay, good stuff. And then I'm just going to clean it up. Nope, it still didn't clean up. Well, that sucks. That made me look rather silly. It does usually work, that does. Never mind. Okay, let's ignore that for now. So, this is a bit of a mess, but I want to make sure, first of all, do we have a short here? No. Okay. So no short there, and we've got no short there as well. Okay. So this one here, that one is ground, but these ones here are not, and these ones here need jumper wires running, just so as we can restore the trace. But we also need somewhere where we can anchor a new connector down to the board as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my grinding pen and I'm going to grind away the edges of this connector. And that trace as well. Good. And yeah, I could sit here going like this with the grinding pen and just, you know, grind all of this crap away, but it's going to take forever and it's not really necessary. So I'm not going to bother with that. What I am going to do is I'm going to take some jumper wire and I'm going to run jumper wires to the pins that I need to run jumper wires to, and then on top of that I also need to create some new anchor points for the connector to sit on. So the way I usually do that is just to use some solder braid and create new anchors like that. But what I need to do first is just protect all of these wires and stuff, because we don't know what these wires go to. If they go to ground, fair enough, then I don't care, because these are just ground points, these anchors, you know, they're going to be connected to ground anyway. So let's just check these. So see, that one there, it doesn't go to ground, so that needs protecting. That one there doesn't go to ground, so that needs protecting. Obviously that one doesn't go to ground, but this here does. So in order for me to run a jumper wire to this wire here, I need to protect this area here. So I need to make sure that that's not going to short out. And then obviously this one here. Okay, that was interesting. Have I got... No, there's nothing underneath. Why did that beep on me? That was weird. This here is ground, obviously. So all of that's ground, that's fine. So I don't need to worry about that. I do need to worry about this wire here, and then this area here needs protecting as well. So let's sort that out using some solder mask. So thanks to Lee from Uber Micro Repairs, he sent me some BWEGs, and we're going to use this to cure the, well, we're going to use it to protect the board. So I've never used this one. This is a special blend, apparently. It's a blend of BWEGs, according to Lee from Uber Micro Repairs. Highly recommend checking out Lee's channel. Absolutely fantastic. Did a fantastic job at, you know, all of the detective work and stuff for BWE. But yeah, we're going to give this a try. Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate it. I'll leave a link in the top pinned comment to Lee's channel. I do recommend checking him out. But yeah, this is Relife RL UVH902, and I've never tried this stuff, so we are going to give it a whirl. Apparently it cures ultra fast. So I haven't got a plunger to hand immediately, so I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of that out. I'll say a little bit, that was a lot, damn. That was a lot of BWEGs. So I'm going to clean a bit of this up. Bear with me. Oh, this is clear. I thought it was black. Okay. No, it's clear. Cool. Good shit. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I need to just protect these areas, so I'm going to just add some of these BWEGs here. I'm going to add some here. One thing I don't want to do though is I don't want to add this to that via for the where the jumper wire needs to go. Okay, so there's that, and then I'm going to wipe the rest of this away. There we are. Good stuff. So yeah, let's just get this cured. So I need UV light for this. So I'm going to use my Mechanic UV light. Not sponsored. Let's cure that. So I'll leave that there for 30 seconds or so, just to cure. Alright, I'm going to use some hot air just to assist with curing. There we are. And let's just have a look. Did this cure? It did. Good. So that should be nicely insulated now. Same as that there. So let's double check. So make sure I'm on ground. And yep. So we've got no shorts. So I'm probing ground. We've got no shorts, and we can safely do the jumper wires now. As you can see, it's not shorting out or anything. It does there because there's no coating there, but yeah, other than that, we're good to go. So I'm going to use some jumper wire. I've got some 1.7mm wire. This is enamel wire. I'm just going to add flux all around. Now I'm going to start with this one here. I'm going to tin this wire just to remove the enamel coating from it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this. So I'll loop it round. Just like that. And then I'm going to come back in. And just tack that to there. I'll add some solder to that in a second. Just going to give it a bit more of a scrape. And there we go, we've got a nice solid connection there. I'm trying to get it, yeah, a little bit further to the right, just so I can loop it round. There we are. Bring it back on itself, and good. Break that away, and then this one, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because it's just a small wire, so we're not going to be able to loop this one, but that's absolutely fine. I'm struggling to get a contact there. Okay, so there's a start. It's only tacked on, it's not soldered properly. Now it's soldered properly. I'm going to trim that at the end there, and then I'm going to use some hot air just to warm this up, and then that way I can clean it all up. So a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'm going to go with the direction of these wires so as not to rip anything. I'm wondering if I've ended up scraping that coating off that part. Yeah, I think I actually might have done, to be honest. Yeah, I think I've scraped that bit off there, but I'll put some more on, no worries. But this bit's fine, that's protected. Okay, good. That's the main thing I wanted to protect, because I mean this bit here, this wire, that's not really that big of an issue, whereas this is, because this is going to have an exposed copper pad on it, so I need to make sure that I don't end up shorting that out. So what I'm going to do is just add some solder just here and here, just to get that started. Same with this side. Solder there, and we're good. Okay, so next I'm going to grab some solder braid. So I've got a bit of solder braid just here. And what I'm going to do is just split this in half. So this is 2.5mm solder braid. You can use, obviously, thinner. But I'm just going to use my blade and split it in half. Of course, you need to be very, very careful so as not to stab yourself. I'm just going to basically trim some of this off and make it a bit thinner, because I don't want it that thick. And then, as you'll see there, that's pretty much perfect for creating a new pad. So I'm going to push this down as flat as I can get it. And I'll hold it there like that. And as you may know, wick absolutely loves to eat up solder. So we can just flow some solder on there. Just look at that, munching up that solder. And bring it down to make sure it doesn't short on this big pad up here. And then it's going to take a little bit, but I'm going to try and trim this off. So I want to trim this around about here. Doesn't have to look pretty. Just has to serve as a good anchor point so as it doesn't break the connector away again. So I'm just going to slowly slice into this. It's not easy to cut through solder braid once it's got solder on it. I want to be careful because I don't want to end up going through the board, obviously. There we are. So that's that one. And then again, I'm going to do the same for the other side. So trim the solder braid. And then I'm going to put the flat side nearest to this pin. So you see what I mean about it? It's going to have exposed copper near that via. Obviously that will cause the via itself to short out. So we want to avoid that. Okay. And yeah, that's it. That's good to go. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Just flatten it out. And yeah, sure, it looks ugly. I know. I get that. But at least it's going to be strong. Just make sure we've got no stray wires. That's the main thing. Although this is ground, so if it shorts out on the chassis, it doesn't matter. As long as it doesn't short out on any connectors or anything like that. Just press down on it a bit. There we are. So we've got two nice heavy duty pads there. Or we will have. And then we've got one here for this small via here. We've also got two pads for the anchor points as well. And yeah, like I said, it doesn't look great, does it? But at the end of the day, what can you do? You got to do your best with what you've got. I'm gonna attempt to protect all of this now using some patent pending BWEGs. So I'm just adding some coating just to the top of the vias, the top of the pad, just to make sure that they're not going to go anywhere. There we are. And then I'll cure that using UV light as well. Let's have a look. How quickly does that cure? Oh wow. Holy crap. Lee, you're not wrong, dude. Wow. That cure is quick. Alright. I like it. I'm not happy to say I like BWEGs. Alright, anyway. Yeah, that's cured. That's done. So we're ready to put a connector on here now. And then for some reason my flux tube has decided it wants to get an airlock, so rather than deal with that, I'm just going to remove the flux manually. It's a bit annoying. I'm just going to... Oh, there goes the airlock. Whoops. Okay, yeah, never mind. That should be sorted now, but... Yeah, okay, so I've got a bunch of flux on there. That's rather annoying. Never mind. I've got a bunch of flux on there. And that should be more than enough to get this job done. In fact, it's probably too much, but never mind. I can always clean it up. So I'm going to line this up. this is going to take a little bit to transfer the heat. It actually does help if you add solder to the iron. There you are, just like that. And then that's locked in. Just make sure we're lined up. Yes, we are. We go in over very slightly, just like that. Perfect. Okay, and now I can anchor down the other side. So I'm going to turn the board. I'm going to make it more comfortable for me because I don't care if the board's uncomfortable. I care if I am. Okay, I'm just going to add some solder here. There we are. Good stuff. So what I'll do now, after I've cleaned my iron, is just push down on the connector and just reflow these solder joints. Just press down as hard as I can on the connector without bending the board, of course. And just make sure that it's sitting as flat to the board as we can possibly get it. It's not going to be completely flat because we've got a raised pad, but it'll do. And then just solder the pins. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And because we can't see these jumper wires, the best thing to do, if you pop your multimeter into diode mode, that's going to give you a readout of a voltage drop across the leads. So if we pop red probe on ground, this should beep. It does, but we get 0.0000 volt drop. So there's no voltage drop across the leads on that, which means that is connected to ground. That one there, the voltage drop is 0.44 volts. That is a normal reading. And this one here, the voltage drop is 0.44 again. Yeah, okay. So all of those are giving me a correct reading. It's telling me that the fan connector is connected. If we were getting something like a 0 volt drop to ground on the left or the right pin, then we would know that there's an issue. We would know there's a short somewhere. If we wasn't getting any connection at all, then we'd know there's an issue. So if we was getting open line, we'd know there's an issue. But because we're getting around about 0.44 volt drop to ground on the leads with the red probe on ground, we know that we've got a good contact on each of these pins and that the pins themselves are soldered. So if we give this a bit of a wiggle, it is a bit loose, as you'll see. You can actually see that jumper wire there very slightly. If we zoom in, you can just see the edge of the jumper wire, and if we wiggle just the jumper wire, the pin moves with it because it's connected nicely. This one you can see just about. You can see the wire there. Sorry, the jumper wire there, but this one you can't. But that's fine. It's all connected nicely. If you do want to go the extra mile, you could put some conformal coating on this. You know, some solder mask or whatever. So you could just go like this and just add a bunch of that just to protect those pins that little bit more. Not necessary, but you can do it. Let's cure that. The only thing I dislike about this solder mask, it's a little bit runny. It's a little bit runny. But never mind, it's fine. Let's have a look at that. Absolutely solid. Damn. Like that's just insane. Like, just how solid that goes in that short space of time is crazy. Damn, I like it. I will be buying that in future, and I will get some to stock on the website because I'm a money grabbing YouTuber, of course. There we go, beautiful. Alright, so if we give that a wiggle, because we've created new anchor points, we don't need any hot glue, we don't need anything like that. We've created new anchor points and that is going nowhere. Absolutely going nowhere. Beautiful. And that, my friends, is job done. So I'm not going to bother cleaning this. It needs a full service, stuff like that. But as people will know, if you've watched the videos for any length of time, you'll know that I don't really do that on camera because it's boring. But they do get cleaned before they go back to the customer. So that's absolutely fine. I'll do that later on. I'll sort the liquid metal out later on. The main thing I want to do right now is make sure that we get a display and that the fan works. That's the main thing. So I've got myself a heatsink clamp here just to obviously keep it cool enough for testing. It's not going to keep it cool permanently because I haven't done the liquid metal or anything like that, but I've got myself a heatsink clamp just to, you know, at least partially screw this down. This isn't even the right screws. These are the screws off a PS4 Pro, but I don't really care. In fact, that one's not. That one is a heatsink screw from a PS5 Slim. So that's not going to work, is it? Who cares? Let's just use that one. I'll just grab a T8 screwdriver bit. It's fine. So I'm in the process of tidying up my workbench and stuff, and yeah, now I can't find anything. So that's always nice, isn't it? Alright, that's screwed down enough. It's tight, it's fine. We're good to go. So let's just give this a full test then, or a quick test at least. So I'm going to check the display. Unfortunately, at the minute, I don't have my other camera set up or anything like that. So I'll make sure it displays, and it does. Fantastic. So what I'll do is I'll turn off HDCP. So we're going to connect up a controller. Make sure that syncs as well. It does. Good. I do also get 4K as well, by the way. Okay, I've just disabled HDCP. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so that's all working. If we go to network, set up internet, connect to free internet. That's how you get free internet, by the way. You just connect to free internet. It's easy. All right, good to go. Beautiful. So that's all working. Connection status, test connection. Good. So that's all working. Let's just connect up a fan, and I've just realised it did come with a clamp and everything it needs. It's all on my other desk. Let's just connect up a fan. Boom. There we go. We have a working fan. So what I always like to do with these when I repair the fan, or when I repair the fan connector, I like to make 100% sure that it's actually going to adjust the fan speed based on temperature. So if I just loosen this off and just give it a bit of a wiggle around, just, you know, loosen off the pressure seal, it's going to start to speed up. There we go. Yep. Okay. Yep. So it starts to speed up, and it does, you know, obviously shut itself off. So I know all of the temperature sensors are working and that the console is working fine. We're not going to have any issues with the fan ramping up when it needs to. So yeah, everything's working on this. Happy days. HDMI is working. It was giving me 4K output. It was giving me audio. The fan is working. The variable speed is working. The temperature sensors are working. The console's working. And yeah, another job done. So yeah, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. If you do have any comments or questions, obviously I always enjoy reading them. I don't always get a chance to reply to them, but yeah, I do enjoy reading them, so please go ahead and leave a comment. Big shout out to Lee for sending me some BW Regis. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much. Highly recommend checking out his channel. Again, I'll leave a link to his channel in the top pinned comment. And yeah, other than that, thank you very much for watching. If you need a repair, check out the cody.repair, get in touch, and I'll do my best to help. If you need any parts and supplies for these, consolefix.shop. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, give the video a thumbs up, all of that good stuff. See you later. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.